Hey guys, what's going on? What's up? And welcome back to the channel. Back tonight, gonna try and finish up the AirDog. It's currently 7 o'clock, so we'll see if we can't get it done before it starts getting dark. If not, then I guess I'll have to finish it tomorrow. Before we get started, if you have not already done so, please subscribe and become part of the family, and hit that little bell notification, and make sure you're notified every time I upload a video. Before I start, last night I made the comment that I was gonna have to, it was a shout out to CJ and Kevin over there for putting my truck on the cover of the manual. In reality, that truck belongs to a gentleman named Michael Asher. So I just wanted to send a huge shout out to him. That truck is awesome. I saw some pictures of it today. I'll put his Instagram right here. Go check out his Instagram page and follow his build on that truck. For the most part, it's kind of done. But he said, like I say, nothing is ever done. So anyway, check out Michael's Instagram. It's right here again. His name's Michael Asher, and give him a follow on Instagram. So let's get started. First of all, what I had to do was change some things around. I did not have my book out here and I wasn't paying attention. I put this bracket on upside down last night, so I just took and turned it over. Still have plenty of, actually it raised it up a little bit more. Still have plenty of clearance in between the bottom of the bed right here and the top of the pump, which is good, because actually this sits down about 3 inches lower, this bed rail that goes right across here, and then it goes up and goes like that, is actually where the bottom of the bed is. So there's still plenty of clearance, but it actually gives it more ground clearance. I could drop it down if I wanted to, but for right now we're going to leave it right here. I started looking at some things, and I noticed that on my pressure adjustment for adjusting the fuel pressure, I wasn't going to be able to get to it. So I started looking at it, and lo and behold, I had this bracket upside down. So I just had to make a quick change, flop that over. I had to take this fitting out. I left these two fittings in, and then just kind of pulled it out and was able to put it on and all back together and all as well. So first things first, that's what I had to do tonight. The next step I'm going to do is probably the hardest for me, probably the most difficult of the whole job, is taking care of your draw straw inside of your sending unit relay. Just building all this stuff. You can take this apart, pull your feed and your return off, take your wiring off. This cap loosens off. Luckily enough, this is still like a 2nd gen style sending unit, and everything just, this screws off and then it lifts out. Some of the other ones have like a cam style to where it's just a metal ring that goes on there and locks under some tabs. Luckily enough, this one threads onto the tank, so we're good. Pay special note to your arrow that points to your tabs here. You have 3 hash marks. Just make sure your arrow is pointing to that center hash mark and you're good. I have opted to go with the draw straw in this just for the simple reason of I live in a colder climate. And in a load of diesel fuel, there could be upwards of 65 gallons of water in that load of fuel. And being in a cold climate, what do you think that's going to do? Now that's dispersed, through a tanker load of fuel. 65 gallons sounds like a lot, but when you think about it in a whole tanker load of fuel, it's really not a lot. But after that water separator catches so much water, they're going to freeze up, unless, a good practice is about every other tank load, or maybe even in the winter time, every tank load, just crack that water separator and let the water out of that. It would be a good practice. The winter, I would do it every tank load. In the summer, every 3rd tank, crack that water separator, let the water out until you get good clean fuel coming out of there. When fuel and water separate, where do you think that water goes? It goes to the bottom because it's heavier than what the diesel fuel is. The diesel fuel will float on top of the water. So therefore, that's why, because your draw straw will sit inside your basket where your factory pump is, and that sits up off the little bit too. So that's why I've decided, instead of going with a sump in this truck, I'm going to go with the draw straw that comes with the unit itself. It's a fuel sending unit modification kit. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it comes in your AirDog kit. So if you're in a colder climate, I would highly recommend unless it's not an everyday driver or you're pretty confident on your fuel, I would recommend sticking with the draw straw and not going with the fuel sump. It's just my own opinion. Like I said, take it for a grain of salt, take it for whatever it is, but that's just my own opinion. So for right now, let's get that sending unit out and get that modified so we can get it back in the tank and plumb and wire this system up. All right, so if you're not lucky enough like me to have your bed off, you are gonna have to drop your tank to be able to do this. Just take and slide that red tab over, push this tab back here and pull your wiring out of the way. You need to take your feed and your return off. And then just loosen this cap up. Make sure this is good and clean. You don't want crap going down inside your tank. And as you pull that up, just make sure you don't bend your sending unit, the arm right there. Alright, after you get your sending unit out, you can clean this area up. Make sure nothing falls inside your tank. You don't want nothing in there at all. And that way, make sure you got your good seal. You take your seal out and keep it. That just sits right in here like this. Just set everything over there to the side. If you want to, this is your factory feed to your factory lift pump. This can be removed. It does not have to stay in the truck. This is your factory return. That will be reused. Alright, with that out, it's been just a few minutes, probably about a half hour. It is actually getting dark out now, so you know how I said this might turn into a 3-day thing, when actually it should only take you maybe a half a day. But when you only have a few hours in the evening, that's kind of what you have to deal with. This is kind of something different. I did modify this same unit in my second gen over there, but as you remember, I put a sump up in there. So what I did on the second gen is I just cut this whole bottom side off about right through here, and then I just put some drilled some holes and put some aluminum pop rivets in there to hold everything down. Now, I need to put the draw straw holder inside there. I need to put the tube inside there, affixed with the draw straw. So all this has to go inside this sending unit. So what I've opted to do is actually cut the bottom. I took this little basket pre-filter off. I cut the bottom of it out. So this is actually going to sit down inside there just like so. And I'm going to be able to drill my holes in the side right here to hold the tube. And then I took and laid my washer in there. I thought about putting it here, but the washer for the bottom side of your pickup, on where this indentation is, that washer doesn't fit in there, and if you would over tighten it, you would crack and pop. That would pop out of there. So this washer was just a little bit too big to fit in there. If I had a metal lathe, I would just turn that washer down to make it fit inside there, and all would be good. So what I actually did was I laid the washer. If you look right here, there's a molded number right through here. So I laid the washer on the inside where the ribs are. I marked it with a Sharpie, held it up to the light, and drilled me a little pilot hole there before I drilled my 5/8 holes. So right now I need to get the 5/8 hole drilled. There's going to be plenty of fuel coming into the bottom. We don't need to drill any access holes here, but we do need to drill the holes in here to be able to hold the draw straw itself. Alright, first thing you want to do is lay this in here like this, or lay this on your sending unit like this. Make a couple of marks. That's where you need to drill those holes. I also need to drill my hole in the top right here for the pickup, and that's a 5/8. These are a 5/32 for these little screws right here that hold that bracket on. Alright, after you drill your hole in the top, put your washer on the bottom side, put your nut. That is a nylon nut, and it is a 15/16. You can either use a wrench. In my case, I just grabbed a couple extensions, and I'm going to use a ratchet. Alright, after you have the hole drilled, these two holes drilled, your pickup oriented the right way. I might need to orient mine just a little bit more that way. But otherwise it can come out, have a nice swooping right to the pump. You want to put this bracket inside there after you get those holes drilled. You need a Phillips and an 11/32. It is going to be quite handy to get that in there. But just like on the other setting units, it can be done. You can either use a wrench or a ratchet. They are a nylon locking nut, so you don't have to worry about them coming loose. If you need to, like I'm going to do right now, just take and grab a hold of that tab and bend it down out of your way. It's just sheet metal, it'll bend right back in place. Now I'm not sure what length I'm going to need to cut this off at. It may need to stay full length. No, it does not. Yes, it can. It can actually stay full length and sit right on this screen right here. If anything, push those up in there further, just like so. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put my rings on there. And you need 2 of them. I am going to, just like I do my hose clamps, orient one way and one the other way if I'm doing a double clamp. Just like that. To me, it gives even clamping pressure all the way around. On this one right here, it's going to be pretty tough to do. They're both going to have to go the same way, just because of where it's at inside the sending unit itself. Now, to get this in there so I don't have to take these clamps off, because that needs to go into the top, just going to take it right out one way or the other like this, and then fish it back through the bracket. And after that's done, I'll just take and put this hose up on my fitting, just like so. Just like downtown. And you can see that still kind of gives it that same spring loaded as what it had before I took all of that out. There's my pickup right there. The screen will go on the bottom and sit right there just like that. Alright, yet again tonight, under the lights. Let's go put the sending unit back in. That took me just a little bit longer than what I anticipated to do that sending unit modification. It's just deburring tool. It's just a little bit different on the second gens to be able to get everything accomplished and done the way that I want, or the way that I wanted to do it. In the manual, you know, it talks about the third gen that has the intake pump. I forgot this one. It still runs like the second gens. It does not have the pump inside the tank. It's just a sending unit itself. So it was just a little bit more difficult to do this process. It just took this a little bit longer. Like I told you before, I cut the bottom of that tank out, took the screen off, cut the bottom of the tank out, took all the guts out of the inside of it, and just modified it that way. And then put everything back together. So right now, let's go out and put the sanding unit in under the lights. Make sure you have a good clean surface. Clean your seal off for your gasket for your ring. Make sure your threads are clean inside here. Put your gasket down inside your tank. Be careful of your float and drop your sending unit back in place. Remembering to line your marks up. Put your ring back on and tighten everything up. Alright, with your ring tight, I'm taking put just a little bit of dielectric grease in your plug. Put it back on your sending unit. Put your return back on. Do not put your feed on. That feed is going to be used for your AirDog return down there. So you do not want to put your feed on. Alright, with all that put back together, I am going to call it a night. Like I showed you before, we have put the sending unit back in under the lights again. Hopefully tomorrow night. This has turned into a 3-night process. Hopefully tomorrow night, part 3, we can get this finished up. So should be pretty smooth sailing from here. Like I said, it just took me just a little bit longer on that sending unit than I would have cared for, but I had to go through and kind of figure things out on the way I wanted to do it, to be able to have that draw straw all the way down to the bottom. And I think it's going to work out pretty good. So anyway, guys, if you don't mind, like I said, no, I said subscribe earlier. This is the first time. Hit that like button, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not already done so. Once again, go check out Michael Asher's Instagram page. It's right here again, and earlier in the video. Until next time, guys, we'll talk to you later on. Bye-bye.